Yo, what's poppin'? You already saw. You saw the thumbnail. You know what this is about. Let's get on to it, because I watched Squid Game, and that shit was a beautiful critique of capitalism and the idea of burying people under debt, and even had a little subtle undertone about how Korea's system of inequality can be exploited to literally have people kill one another for the sake of freeing themselves from debt, and even the idea that death is better than being in the life of living in debt. Like, come on, bro, it was bars. And Ben Shapiro is going to review Squid Game. Let's see what he's got to say.
Alrighty, today, my review of Squid Game, which is the biggest show on Netflix and maybe in Netflix history. We'll get to all of the details in just one moment. First, this video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. After you've actually watched this very disturbing show and you don't want to know what's about to happen, then you really shouldn't watch this review until after.
Bro, just say spoilers ahead. Yo, I'm so intellectual, I can't say spoilers ahead. We here for this with my morning coffee. I love it. Let's go.
So you've actually watched the show. Unless you're producer Elliot, in which case you're screwed because you actually have to film this and, well, tough. So the basic premise of Squid Game is essentially Hunger Games crossed with Parasite. That's the elevator.
So that means you haven't seen Battle Royale 2000. Okay, cool.
Pitch. It's basically a guy who is living in poverty. He is divorced. He has a bad relationship with his ex-wife. He's kind of a derelict. He's a gambler. And he's fallen into tremendous amounts of debt with a gang, with some sort of mob. And he eventually is approached by a man in a subway station who decides to play a game with him. And the stakes of the game are that if he loses, then the man gets to slap him in the face really, really hard. And if he wins, then the guy gives him money. So this goes on for a few rounds.
This is not a review. This is a summary.
Losing and losing and losing. Finally, he wins some money. And the guy hands him a card and says, if you want to play more games like this, then let me know. He, of course, decides that he's going to call the number. He ends up being kidnapped, sort of, and taken to a place where they play these children's games. And they're going to...
You've never watched Squid Game? That means that this is going to take care of it
6
for you.
rounds of
Look
the
at that.
children's
I'm
games.
helping people.
And if you
today.
make it through all 6 rounds, then you win this massive pot of money. What they don't tell you is that if you lose the games, then you die. So
okay, but they did tell you that, kind of, sorta. But like, nobody was taking the elimination part seriously. If they put you to sleep and kidnap you to a place that's a remote island or just somewhere like not alone, like it's the observation. Shut up.
The very first episode, you have them play red light, green light, and everybody who moves during the red light phase of the game is immediately shot by snipers to death. You can kind of see this coming, frankly. Like, if you knew anything about the show or if you had any idea of where this was going, this was not a giant surprise. The first episode is not particularly gory, but it is kind of...
What? The first episode is not particularly gory? My guy, more than half the players were killed.
Kind of disturbing in that everybody is being killed off, but, you know, very much like Battle Royale, the Japanese precursor.
He mentioned it. So he's well versed. Hold on, I gotta take that back because we said that earlier. My bad. He's well versed.
Games or Hunger Games itself. As
My
the show
bad.
goes on,
My
the
bad.
games become more and more scary. You have a couple of other characters who are introduced. You have a young woman who's escaped from North Korea, who's essentially attempting to win the money so that she can give the money to a trafficker to get her mom out of North Korea, and also so that she can afford to buy a house with her younger brother. You have a mob member who is attempting to pay off his bad old debts. A crazy woman whose backstory you don't actually really get. You have a friend of the main character who made something of himself and now has mysteriously ended up in this game. And the reason is because he attempted embezzlement and he used money he didn't own in order to try and buy futures, and the futures went south, and so he ends up buying millions and millions of won. And there's this old man who's tagging along because he has brain cancer and he figures I may as well win some money for my family before I die. And they go through various permutations. Meanwhile, there's sort of a side story where a cop infiltrates and he's trying to figure out who's at the head of this organization that's attempting to create these games and torture these people. And it's kind of an interesting setup. In one episode, the people are actually allowed to be let go because the rules of the game are, once you sign up, you have to play. If you don't play, you get shot. But if a majority of the players at any given time decide that they no longer want to play the game, then the entire game is disbanded, and the money that was collected for the game is distributed to the families of the people who died. So In an early episode, that's one of the things that happens. Everybody sort of goes back to their regular life. And then, of course, they end up coming back to the game because they have no options in the outside world. And this really brings us to the central sort of parasite aspect of Squid Game. It is a dystopian thriller. And so the politics are very communistic in nature. The politics.
What? Yo, I let him speak that long for him to land on it being communism. Communism is when debt, therefore I must die for, that's capitalism. That is the actual, hold on.
Politics for this very large budget show, which is being shown on Netflix, which is a high market cap tech company, are extraordinarily far to the left. The basic idea is that capitalism provides so little opportunity that you would rather play a game where you might get shot just to make money than attempt to live out your life in the regular world. And you
Is gambling not one of the most lucrative things in the US right now? Am I mistaken on that? Do we not literally have ads from like every YouTuber about like DraftKings and like has he never played the lottery? When you play your last $5 instead of getting a loaf of bread and some meat to eat because you're hoping to strike it big, do you not understand capital investment and risk and the fact that you will die rather than like try to eke out a meager existence, barely scraping by? See, this is what I say when people critique things from a rich person's perspective or oh my God, missing the whole fucking point. I'm here because I'm not even into politics. I'm here because I like your ideas. Thank you. Don't worry. We got more. Don't worry. There's way more relatable shit here, but we got more right now.
You see some of the other characters who are in the regular world, right? So the main character, who again is sort of a derelict and a gambler, his mom is trying to live a normal life, but she's got diabetes and she doesn't have enough money to pay for her surgical care, so she might lose her feet, for example. You have the mother.
Literally capitalism. Yo, okay, so for my YouTube audience, and for my Twitch audience, but like, I'm gonna talk about it with them first, and then you'll see it later on YouTube. I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna go through a story. I'm gonna show you the documents and everything. If you don't know, my dad almost passed away a couple months ago. The cost of everything to save his life was so exorbitant, is so exorbitant, that it was more than I have made in the previous 3 years combined. And I was working before the pandemic hit. Like, it's that expensive. We were making a joke, and I hate that we made this joke, but like, it's real. And now that I see those memes, it's like that shit hit personally. It would have been easier. It would have been less expensive to give him a funeral than it would have been to save his life. That's what we live in right now. How the fuck you get communism from that? Like,
of the guy who is corrupt and embezzling, and she runs like a very small stand, but is obviously living in some form of poverty. You have the North Korean escapee who is basically almost homeless and who is forced to steal money. And there's a scene where the North Korean escapee is asked by another character, you escaped from North Korea, was it worth it? And the answer seems to be not really, which is kind of a strange take because North Korea is a giant gulag. It's a giant prison camp. So no matter what you think of South Korea, it is not comparable in any way, shape, or form to the lifestyle in North Korea, where people are, on average, several inches shorter than people in South Korea because of malnutrition. Also, if you make a show criticizing the regime in South Korea, it goes viral and ends up on Netflix. If you create a show criticizing the regime in North Korea, they strap you to the front of an anti-aircraft gun and then open fire. So that seems to be a slight difference. But
did Ben Shabibo just meme? Today's stream is gonna be sick, yo.
The basic idea here is the same as the basic idea in Parasite, which is that if you are poor in South Korea, there is no way up the ladder because
No, we're not supposed to talk about that because he's not bringing that point up to like debate. He's skipping all of that to make some insane, insidious, yo, this man, bro.
Capitalism is evil. And there are a bunch of kind of notes that are put into the show that underscore this very silly theme. One of those notes is that when you get to the ending episodes and you find out who are the VIPs who bet on who is going to win and who's going to lose the game, they're all American. Like they're all these big American fat cats, so it's really the evil Americans and their capitalist excesses, these decadent Americans who are behind this whole thing. There's not a good American in the entire show. They're just a bunch of Americans who are wearing these glittery masks, a la Hunger Games. And this is supposed to characterize the idea that really South Korean economics is run at the behest of these evil white corporate paymasters. The biggest point.
No! It's that people with excess funds can literally shape the lives of other people by simply offering them a way out of their situation. Oh my God. It's like this man swung. You remember that fucking The Whitest Kids You Know when Timmy was swinging at the ball and he just missed and blew off his cap and everything? That's how big of a swing and a miss this shit is.
Spoiler, of course, is that the person who's heading up the Squid Game is the old man, right? So the old man is playing, and it turns out that he's playing out of fun. He's not actually playing because he is worried about dying. He does have brain cancer, that part's true, but he's the head of a major corporation. He's a very wealthy industrialist, and his entire shtick is that all of this is justified. Squid Game is justified because it is, in fact, more fair than the actual capitalist economy that is in place in South Korea. Okay, this is a very silly view of capitalism.
Jeff Bezos had to be coerced into offering good wages and still has no good working conditions. I know this is anecdotal, but I've had a few friends of mine. Sorry, I heard my rapper and I was like, "Is somebody opening the door?" I had a friend of mine I have had friends of mine who work there who literally become so exhausted to the point of like, I don't have time to eat. I don't have time to make friends. It's just they schedule you weird and you're pretty much hoping for a shift type shit. Like, I wrote this in a poem of mine and it's crazy because that shit should pop off. Continue to generate wealth from my dust. Like, come on.
Capitalism is literally predicated on the notion that you do not get something unless you give something to somebody else.
Yes! Money for labor. The inequity is in how much labor for the money. Therefore, the extreme would be to let rich people pay you to snuff people out. Squid Game. Because that's what we do in the hood. No, why is all the black people killing each other? Because we got no resources. I gotta take what you got. Just the same way y'all capitalists, y'all imperialists, your colonialists came to the country and took shit. Oh, but they bought Manhattan for like, what, $14? What was that, the joke? Is that the money? $19 or some shit? Like, come on.
As Hayek was fond of suggesting, the basic premise of capitalism is that you are forced to do something you wouldn't have normally done for somebody else because you need something from them. Trade ennobles. Trade is good. But
no, and equitable trade. Okay. This is gonna be out of left field, but y'all gonna fuck with this one. Therefore, what was the equal trade when we freed the slaves? Because we took everything from them, and in exchange, we gave them the right to exist? Right there's your biggest inequality. Oh, white people have done more to end slavery. But in which forms? Right there. Your man's just made a great case as to how the abolishment of slavery wasn't a fair fucking labor trade.
For people who don't understand capitalism and come from sort of a Marxist-leaning bent, capitalism is a zero-sum game. Somebody wins and somebody loses.
Play Monopoly! Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my voice today. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna lose my voice today. Play Monopoly. It's a zero-sum game. Because when every player has all equal amounts, for some reason, the wealth gets concentrated and people end up on the street. If there was a way to hit a cap limit on how much you could abuse the system, so many more people would hit that limit and the rest would just flourish to everyone else. That's the America I'm trying to create. When I talk about political ideas, when I'm talking about, oh, you know, I want to run for mayor, I want to run for senate, that's the America I'm trying to spur up. A place where you can succeed so far, but everyone below you isn't exploited to the point of malnutrition, homelessness, starvation, death, having to kill others to get by. Like,
wins the big pot of cash and somebody dies. Of course, the metaphor inside the Squid Game is supposed to be that if only the population seized the means of production through majority votes, then all of this would end and we would usher in a new and better world, right?
Quite literally, though!
It takes is a majority vote to stop this terrible system where some people are being murdered for the benefit of other people. Okay, but that assumes that economics is a zero-sum game, right? Which it is not. It assumes that capitalism is a zero-sum game, which it is not. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, I need my Helix Sleep mattress. I really, really do. Helix Sleep mattress, actually, it has a couple of different 2020, but you will. You're going to love it. .com. And doesn't have a lot of support other than sort of the polemical notion that anybody who's involved in the capitalist system is somehow corrupt and evil. You literally see no business people other than people who are exploitative or embezzling. Okay, I didn't like Parasite for this very reason because it seemed like sort of a brainless critique of capitalism. My critique of Parasite is that the poor people in Parasite are supposed to be sympathetic, but they literally do nothing right, and the rich people in Parasite are supposed to be bad. And
this is how I know that capitalism has fucked people up. Read this fucking answer. It's as foolish to blame the rich for your poverty as it would be to blame the poor for your wealth. But I can place the blame or the... Didn't Jeff Bezos out of his mouth say thank you to every Amazon customer and every Amazon employee because you paid for this? I didn't want to pay for that. Give me $17 back, bro. Give me a gift card. The beauty of capitalism is that how much someone else has in the bank doesn't affect your ability to generate wealth of your own. That's a lie. You need to gain capital to get into the real estate market. Somebody who has an edge up on you can buy up every building that you are interested in and saving up for before you can even manage the funds for the first building. It's not like there are a finite amount of dollars out there. There are, though. And it's impossible to get any of them because they're all trapped in the bank accounts of the wealthy. That is what it is. We have fiat currency. That means our money supply is a constant state of growth. Yes, to rich people, tax breaks, etc. Printing money to generate a little bit of buzz in the poor people to then funnel it back up to the 1%. The dollars are available for the taking, and your ability to generate wealth isn't limited by how much else somebody already has. Yes, but they can dictate the market and how much my labor is worth. If every rich person on earth had all the money and all the poor people were working for them just to make a living, they can dictate how much of my living they can allow. Like, I don't understand how we don't get there. Your only limitation is your ability, your time, and your knowledge. So people are disadvantaged. Disabled people don't work in the system. You see, everybody chooses where they're at. You didn't bring up disabled people. You didn't bring up mentally ill people. There are billionaires in my industry. I'm not one of them. My ability to become one of them isn't limited by them. It's limited by me. Yeah, he's a bootlicker. He a bootlicker. See? You see how easy that is? Want to become famous? Buy followers and viewers on Clapped. Thanks for coming.
and therefore worthy of punishment, and they literally don't do anything that is immoral in the course of the movie, like at all. And yet you're just supposed to assume that the rich people are bad and the poor people are somehow good. The same thing sort of holds true in this show. In this show, all of the poor people are perceived as sort of innately more noble than the people who are rich, even though...
That is literally not true. That is people were clamoring when they were binge watching the series for certain people to die. You're fucking lying.
The reality is that the poor people in the show, aside from the North Korean refugee, like the main character is a derelict gambler. He's a bad guy. Okay, and he's gradually ennobled by his participation in the game is sort of the idea, but all of the characters who are seen to participate in the capitalist system are, of course, very, very bad. And so that's the political take on the show, and it seems like that is the message that is now being exported by the South Korean film industry.
The entire South Korean film industry off this one.
As far as the actual show itself, like whether it's entertaining or not, yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. It's definitely very watchable. It gets extremely gory. There's a very bizarre side plot about selling of bodily organs that gets really graphic and kind of gross. I will say I thought the twists were predictable. Maybe that's because I've watched too many movies, and maybe it's because I've written stuff myself, but it's pretty obvious from the beginning.
I've written stuff myself. I've written stuff myself.
That
I'm a
whoever
writer,
is going to be leading up.
You know who that remind me of? Fucking Brian from Family Guy. And just wherever you can. So, you guys like this curtains? You like those curtains? I like the curtains too. My main character in my book, Why Wouldn't You? Also likes these colored curtains.
The Squid Game has to be an integral character, otherwise it has no meaning when you reveal who's leading up the Squid Game. So that means that it can't be any of the young people who get killed. The only person it could be, theoretically, is the old man, really. So I kind of called that one maybe 3 episodes in advance. And also, the other big mystery of the show is that you have a cop who's trying to search for his brother, who's supposedly been taken into the system, and it turns out that he is a part of the system. That, again, was not super unpredictable. But overall, if you had to rate Squid Game in terms of watchability and on a cliffhanger with the main character, which, you know, I'll start to watch it, for sure. But is it worthy of the sort of high praise
This
baseline?
man said, that's it. That's our thumbnail. That's our thumbnail. This man graded it on a scale of watchability and politics. Joe Biden has all the prices going up. I can't even pay attention. You know, normally, hold on. I'm gonna end this segment here today. Thanks, YouTube. Please do me a favor, like, subscribe. You know to do the thing.